Hi, King Boomer. I cannot decide whether you look like a Civil War general or a communist dictator, but either way, I don't like it. Hello, my friends. How we doing? It's good to see you. Welcome back to the channel, and we got a video to react to today, and this is sent in by Chug. Oh, you okay? Okay. Chug sent this in. This is another video from QI, and it's 10 fun history facts on QI with Stephen Fry. So I'm going to be learning some stuff. It seems like every time I do a QI reaction, I'm learning some things. So 10 fun history facts on QI. There's probably more than 10. But this is a quite long video. It's about 27 minutes, so I'm going to be in this chair for a while. And hopefully it's pretty good. So thank you, Chug, for sending this in. Remember to like, subscribe, do whatever you guys want. And let's learn some things. I'm excited. Here we go.
Ancient Athens, the Greeks invented tragedy, comedy, geometry, philosophy, biology, democracy, history, prize-giving, persuasion, proof, punctuation, politics, boxing gloves, tightrope walking, and the steam engine. According to these geniuses, how do otters kill crocodiles? Yes.
Softly with their songs.
Nice.
That's a very beautiful answer.
Don't they just gang up on
A
them?
sort of lyrical quality to it.
It really did. Yes.
I think it must be more than one otter at work.
Yes.
Be an otter distraction. Lure them
That's an
onto
otter thing altogether.
dry land, pull the plug out.
That would be.
Or choke them, get in. You hold his jaws open, I'll choke him.
Well, it's not far
That's
off.
closer, isn't it? Is it something to do with them waiting till they're asleep and actually climbing into them, just walking straight into them?
Well, do you know, you're not far off there, young Giles. It's, I'll tell you what it is. They actually believed that otters scampered into the open mouths of crocodiles and ate their entrails, and then dashed out again when the crocodile had died.
The crocodile went, ah!
The Greeks had a lot of very good ideas, but this wasn't one of them, because it's not true. Another of their ideas, very popular in its day, but which hasn't lasted, was raphanidzein. And it's the penalty for adultery, and it involved inserting a radish into the adulterer's bottom. Radishes were a lot longer, wider, and pointier in those days, and were hammered home with a mallet.
Oh my God. I've actually heard of this, and it's a wild punishment for adultery. I wonder how often they dealt that punishment out. But you know, I will say this: that I have found that the further back you go in history, the more people try to really shove things up people's asses. I can't believe I said that, but. I swear, the further back you go in history, like there's all these there's more and more punishments that involve sticking inanimate objects up people's bum holes, and it's strange. I guess they had a fascination with it back then. But okay, she wants to get out, so quickly, and there we go. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, but if anybody ever invents time travel, remember the further you go back, the more in danger your butthole is. So just remember that.
Raphanidzein is therefore a verb meaning to insert a radish into the fundament.
You know, a radish is a meat. Oh, no, I don't know if I mentioned that or not.
To insert meat into the fundament, there is another word for that. You don't need a special word for that.
It's an absurd
That was good, Stephen.
I'd have thought smacking them on the thumb with a mallet would be much, wouldn't it?
They were, after all, Greek, you see.
They didn't really mind homosexuality, though, did they?
They very much relished it. They certainly knew a thing or two about man-on-man action.
The least effective spies, Britain's Michael Bettany, hired by MI5 in 1982. He once tried to dodge a ticket on a train while drunk, and when a guard chased him, he shouted, "You can't arrest me, I'm a spy."
So easy to overestimate the efficacy of the double bluff, isn't it?
Yes. Well, he later tried to get in touch with the KGB to sell them some documents, and the KGB thought they were being set up, and they informed MI5 of his treachery. So he was just all rubbish.
Look, that is the worst bunny rabbit you've ever seen.
Probably the worst spying operation happened in 1940, and this is one of my favourites. A dozen German spies landed in Britain, and they were all caught almost immediately. One walked into a pub and asked for a pint of cider soon after 9 o'clock in the morning. They weren't allowed to serve alcohol before lunch.
Half a litre of cider?
Straight away, please. Another couple were stopped while cycling through Scotland on the wrong side of the road, and when they looked in their bags, they found to contain German sausages and Nivea hand cream. And I
What a combination!
I know!
Yeah, I was just about to say that.
It's 9 o'clock in the morning! I've had a cider, Hans.
I think it was because no British soldier would have hand cream, but it turns out Nivea's German. I didn't know that.
Is it?
It's German.
Oh.
One of them spoke no English at all, but the one who spoke English the best said his mission was to find out how the people is living, how many soldiers there are, and all the things.
Oh man, not the best German operation of the war.
I know it was a documentary, basically.
There are some people who think they were deliberately sent by senior German officers to sabotage the plot because they didn't want to invade Britain. But,
That's the Germans for you. At the time. A lot of them have mended their ways since.
For our friends in Berlin, Richard's address is...
The patron saint of QI is the ancient Roman Gaius Plinius Secundus, better known as Pliny the Elder. His natural history is the great encyclopedia, covering all human knowledge at the time. Life, he said, is my subject, and he estimated that the 37 volumes that he wrote contained 20,000 important facts derived from 2,000 books. The 28th book of his magnum opus is what concerns us now, packed as it is with antidotes, state-of-the-art remedies culled from the great medical minds of the ancient world. So, Danny, what does Pliny confidently expect to cure by recommending that the patient eats the heart of a black jackass outside, out of doors that is, on the second day of the moon?
Mumps. Actually, I have no idea. So
That's wild.
There was a suggestion once that the key to eternal life lies in the elbow, and if it can be consumed, then you would live forever. Which is why nobody, no matter how hard you try, can actually lick their own elbows. Even though...
Clearly, we're so
I know the audience are now desperate to have a go. But it's so attainable until you come to here, and whether the theory came first or the curse came second... The idea that you cannot lick your elbow, but they say if you can, you will live forever.
But isn't that how socialism was invented, that someone said, come, let us lick each other's elbows?
It doesn't look good.
That's actually crazy. I've never thought about that. Can I lick my elbow? Ugh. Man, this is hard. I can't actually get to the point. So maybe, I don't know. I guess you have to be double jointed or something. I can't believe I actually tried that on video.
Well, the thing is that no young man of licking age spent any time at all trying to lick his elbow.
I just tried it.
The question was, why would you eat the heart of a black jackass by the light of them?
Well, it must be something awfully serious you'd have wrong with you. Yeah. Because the heart of a... Yeah, where do you get a black jackass anyway?
These days.
These days?
Yeah.
Kentucky Fried Jackass.
Well, I'll tell you the answer.
Is it gout?
It's not gout. It's not gout. It's actually epilepsy. Although he also prescribes for epilepsy the consumption of lightly poached bear's testes, a camel's brain, dried and taken with honey, or in extremis, a draught of fresh gladiator's blood.
That sounds like some witch doctor stuff. It really does.
He doesn't mention Tegretol then.
No. Is that the specific that you favour?
Yes, it is. That's a specific drug for epilepsy.
Do you have epilepsy yourself?
No.
No, but you know those who do.
She knows loads about drugs.
Does she?
Yeah, because she's a nurse.
And a drug
Of course
addict.
she would. What was the most disastrous haircut ever? Yes. Some examples for you there.
I've got two answers. I'm going to get the screen going up there. One is my last haircut. No, or Samson's haircut. Samson's haircut done.
Yeah, Samson's haircut's a very good answer, actually.
That's me.
Yes.
He just realized it.
You just noticed.
Well, you must remember posing for these, or has this been...
I remember the one in the middle. The other two, I have no memory.
I know for a fact that in 1928, the New England Tool and Die Manufacturing Company was looking for a new screw that wouldn't slip out of the notch, and a man named Phillips worked for him.
Who is this guy? Is this an American? He could be Canadian. I don't know.
Who had one of the most disastrous haircuts ever. It was parted in four.
That would be an example of a disastrous haircut that went good. This one, well, I mean, of course, there are many candidates, and Samson is one, but do you know anything about Louis VII of France? There he is on the left. We're talking about the 13th century. His queen became queen.
Sorry, go back.
There are many candidates, and Samson is one, but do you know anything about Louis VII of France? There he is on the left.
That's not a very flattering picture.
We're talking about the 13th century. His queen became queen of a more famous king to us, being British.
Aquitaine.
She was Eleanor of Aquitaine, absolutely
long
right.
hair, yes.
The point is, Louis VII was very religious, and the monks got to him, and he cut that hair off. He looks rather good there, but apparently he cut all his hair off, and she was furious at it.
Oh, right.
So cross that eventually she divorced him. I mean, there are other things too, probably, but the hair is mentioned by historians as
He
one of
also
the
cut
things.
his cock off.
Maybe, I don't know, his mother may have sold her...
Has your mother sold a mangle?
Maybe that had happened, yeah.
I divorced you.
But the consequences of the divorce were enormous, because she then went over, she was incredibly rich, she took her kingdoms with her, married Henry II, and it began the 100 Years' War.
Yes.
So essentially it was the haircut
right.
that began a 100 Years' War.
Yeah, but that's just something you say in polite company. Like when you telling people you're breaking up with your partner, you go, yeah, well, I ain't like what he did with his hair, so I left. You can't really say about the king, he keep farting in bed. I just don't like his haircut.
Yeah, you're right. What is interesting about this poor king is...
Looks like we might have two Americans on this panel.
Had sexual relations with Eleanor's mother because he was very abstinent indeed, and he became ill, and the courtiers suggested it was because he hadn't had sex. Yeah. And so he consented to have the Queen sent for, and they said, no, she's too far away. If you don't have sex immediately, you will die. But genuinely being told that he had to have sex or he would die, he actually said he would rather die chaste than live an adulterer.
See, that leads you to believe that he had a bad sexual experience as a child.
Yes.
And just, because, most men wouldn't rather, face death than have sex. So something happened when he was a kid, maybe a teenager, maybe his wee-wee got caught in the zipper, or mangled, or...
Yes, the
or he said, I'm not ready for this yet, maybe just let me lick your elbow. And the woman just said, do what you do best. And...
Very good. The Simpsons make a reference to the 100 Years' War.
Oh, do they?
Do you know what they call it?
Eh?
Operation Speedy Resolution. Anyway, so we've all had bad hair days,
Definitely
but the one
wasn't.
which helped start the 100 Years' War. What did the ancient Greeks use blackberries for?
Tarts, pies, and occasionally a nice salad.
Is it to do with health or beauty?
It is to do with health, not really beauty. I think we'd be pushing it, but health.
They used to push them up their backside.
Yes.
Comfort them from the radish. When the radish came in, the blackberries would cushion the blow.
It's sort of almost true, because they used it as a specific against piles. And I dare say, having a few radishes hammered up, you would probably induce piles. Now, 1 in 10 ancient Athenians did it regularly until the Macedonians put a stop to it in 322 BC. What am I talking about? They're not doing it there, incidentally, in that picture behind.
They pay their utilities bills by direct debit.
Was it democracy? Because they basically took over. I know this is a fun, just goof around show, but I'm actually trying. some of these I'm like actually trying to think of what the real answer would be. But this one, I mean, isn't that when they finally ended democracy in Athens because it was causing so much trouble? And it was like 10 years after somewhere, it was like 10 years after like Alexander had already left to go east. So the guy in charge was Antipater, I believe, in Macedon. He left him behind to run Macedon and make sure the Greeks didn't act out of hand. And I think they did, or at least the Athenians did. I think the Spartans did at one point too. But the Athenians acted out and tried to rebel, and Antipater sorted them out and said, right, no more democracy. At least that's what I'm trying to remember, but I could be wrong.
Would you recommend the direct debit route?
It takes the hassle out of it,
Does
Stephen.
it?
It does the hassle out of it.
You can't put a price on peace of mind. So, what do Greeks...
Is it
What
something
did they
specifically
do?
Greek or something that a
Something Greeks
Macedonian
invented,
might
something
have
we do. Something we do.
We do it?
Something we do.
Democracy.
Oh, elections.
Yeah.
They voted. They voted for all their chieftains, all their leaders, all their wise men. They voted for their justice at the Areopagitica, and a democracy was born. It was snatched crudely away from them by the Macedonians. Invented, though, in ancient Greece.
Speaking of crudely...
Lasted only 180 years.
Pinto.
The Greeks regarded small testicles as rather artistic.
I'm a man out of his time.
You get 5 points for being British. Only 10% of the population ever had the vote. Greek women had to wait another 2,274 years until they finally got theirs in 1952. These were the ancient Mexican use to teach children manners. You've got chocolate, chili...
Monkey with a baseball bat seems pretty effective.
Definitely would.
You're not going to say please, we're going to get the monkey with the bat.
I personally would...
All right, so we got James A. Castor and Bill Bailey.
use a cactus.
What would you do with it?
Throw the child at it.
Whoa!
Then you are pretty much on a par with those ancient Mexicans.
Oh, am I?
Yeah. The Aztec, or the Mexica. The Mexica, as they were called,
Yes.
from which we get our word Mexico, did have a firm but fair way of treating their children.
That means very cruel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Codex Mendoza was written by someone observing the practices of the Aztecs. And this is what he found. Basically, they were taught to be humble, hard-working, and polite. Just like British... Oh, no, what am I talking about? So this is how it went. It begins with an 8-year-old boy being threatened with the spines of a cactus.
Wow.
The following year, he's stripped, bound, and pierced in his neck, side, and thigh.
Wait, hold on. Go back.
It begins with an 8-year-old boy being threatened with the spines of a cactus.
Wow.
The following year, he's stripped, bound, and pierced in his neck, side, and thigh. Next year, he's bound and beaten with a pine stick. The year after that, age 11, his father holds his son, bound and weeping, over a fire of burning chilies. As you can see, top right there.
All practices carried on in English boarding schools.
Yeah. Finally.
Jesus Christ, Aztecs. You know, it's stuff like this that makes me think when the Spanish landed and they saw them doing stuff like this to their kids and then sacrificing people on top of the pyramids and stuff and whatever else they did. They looked around and they were like, these people are out of their minds. We need to conquer them immediately so these ideas don't spread. I don't know if that's a fucked up thing to say. I hope not, but I just imagine like the Spanish landed and seeing the Aztecs or the Mayans doing what they're doing and just going, these people are nuts and we need to put a stop to this. So that was probably a better way to say it, but anyway, a very bloody part of history, that's for sure.
A stroppy 12-year-old is bound and dumped in a damp vegetable patch for a day to reflect on his conduct. By the time he's 13, he's dutifully gathering reeds, as you can see.
Yeah, bearing a terrible grudge.
Yeah.
Which he will take out on his child.
Yes.
That's
So it's a sort of, yes, it's a meme of cruelty.
It is, yeah. But the Huichol Mexicans, and you'll like this, I think, Joe, they had an interesting practice, which is when a woman was pregnant, she would lie, and in the room above, her husband would lie, and he would have strings attached to his testicles, which would drop down into the room below where his wife was pregnant.
I'm loving this.
She would hold the strings, and when she had a contraction, she would pull, so that he was forced to share her pain.
Oh, wow. Okay. I was wondering where that was going. I do not like that. Sorry, ladies. Sorry, ladies. I do not like that. Oh, my God. That sounds terrible. Oh, man. I felt so bad for Queen Boomer when she was going through her pregnancy. It didn't look fun, to say the least.
Of course, he cunningly slipped the string off, tied it onto the boards of the bed, and went to the pub.
Nice.
Tied it to the dog.
Oh, his 12-year-old son.
It's possible.
Sorry, go on.
No, carry on.
No, I was going to say a very embarrassing story about testicles, but you carry on.
Oh, I want your testicle story.
All right, then. Well, we had this dog, and it got into the bed, and it started to lick the wrong set of testicles. That's all I'm saying.
I did not need to know that.
Surely everybody wins.
Everyone's a winner.
I haven't been back.
If you had to fight a duel, which weapon would you want your opponent to choose? A, hot air balloon? Would that please you? B,
Wait a minute.
I haven't been back.
If you had to fight a duel, which weapon would you want your opponent to choose?
I just love... This is I think this was Ridley Scott's... The picture in the background. This was Ridley Scott's first movie, I think. And it's called The Duelists. And I've watched it maybe like 3 times. And it's an amazing movie. And one of the Ridley Scott movies that not a lot of people know about, probably because it was his first one. But it is insanely good, in my opinion. Highly recommend if you like Ridley Scott movies. This is one of his best. And he's got some good ones. He's got some bad ones too. I will admit, some really bad ones. But what's the saying now that they're attributing to Ridley Scott? When Ridley Scott makes a movie, the gods flip a coin. Anyway. But I had to point that out because that movie is incredible. It actually makes me... I haven't seen it in years, but I want to watch it again. Ugh.
A, hot air balloon? Would that please you? B, a billiard ball? C, a sword? Or D, a sausage?
Definitely a sword.
Sausages are fairly non-lethal.
You'd say
I would
sausage?
think you could get terrible food poisoning
Yeah,
from the sausage.
Yeah, but...
Well, we do have history on our side, so we can tell a story about the sausage. There was a scientist, a very eminent scientist, who was rather liberal in his ways, who lived in Prussia, and who was the great leader of Prussia, who basically unified Germany and was the what we would call prime minister, but he was the minister-president of Prussia.
Bismarck.
Von Bismarck, exactly. And this German pathologist, who was called Rudolf Virchow, was so opposed the mighty armaments program that Bismarck had started that he enraged Bismarck, who challenged him to a duel. So because he got to choose, this doctor, who was the first man to isolate the pathogen behind pork that had gone off, which is called Trichinella spiralis, said, OK, the weapons will be sausages, one of which would be poisonous, toxic, as you say, with this agent, this pathogen. So he challenged him to a breakfast, essentially. And Bismarck didn't like the idea, so called the whole thing off, which the challenger has the right to do.
So it's a sausage roulette?
Yeah, basically.
I just love the fact that Bismarck... He's unified all of Germany. He's the top dog. He's the man in charge. And he didn't like something someone said, so he just straight up challenge. He doesn't execute him. He doesn't throw him in prison. He challenges him to a duel. That is crazy. That is crazy. Not your typical move if you're running a country. But that's amazing to me. Like, the fuck... I always... one of the most fascinating stories to me in American history is when it was Alexander Hamilton. He was challenged to a duel by was it Aaron Burr? Yeah, who was running for president because Hamilton was speaking out against the idea of Aaron Burr becoming the president, who would have became the third president. He was running against Thomas Jefferson, and it was basically in deadlock. But then Hamilton broke the deadlock by going against his own party man and Aaron Burr and talking crap about him, and tilted the balance in Jefferson's favor and allowed Jefferson to become president. And Aaron Burr challenged him to a duel over it and killed him. It's crazy. It ruined his career, but man, it's just mind-blowing to me that, because it wasn't all that long ago. It really wasn't. And this with Bismarck is even more recent. So it was what, like 150 years ago at this point? I mean, that's not that, in the course of human history, that's not that long ago. So it's just wild to me. Anyway, sorry.
Sausage roulette. Yeah, but with only two. And so you had a 50-50 chance of dying. So that's a pretty dangerous duel. Wow. Sausage duel. So moving from the sausage to the balloon, the Monsieur Grandpré and Monsieur de Pique. We're going to get quite French because you know what they're like. In 1808, there was a dispute between these two over the affections of a young woman. They took to the skies in separate hot air balloons, each armed with a blunderbuss. De Pique shot first and missed. He had the first shot and he missed.
There's a moment, isn't it?
Grandpré then fired at de Pique's balloon and punctured it, sending him and his second down to their deaths.
Wow.
2,000 feet above Paris.
That's crazy!
It's damn dangerous. There's only one example of a billiard ball duel that we've been able to discover. That took place between a Monsieur L'Enfant and a Monsieur Melfort. They fell out over a game of billiards, not surprisingly, and so they used what was to hand, billiard balls. Presumably it was carom if they were French. And they decided to resolve their difference by pelting each other, one after the other, with billiard balls. They drew straws to see who would throw first. And Melfort won, and he warned his opponent he would kill him with a one single strike, and he did. Straight between the eyes.
Wow.
Dead.
Wow.
Oh, God.
That's...
And he probably went, I was joking. I was, I didn't think I'd actually hit you.
I was going to say, now that I have the context of all four objects you can use in a duel, I was thinking, like, maybe I'd probably go with the billiards, because that's the one you'd probably survive the most. You come out of a hot air balloon and just drop straight down when it gets punctured. You're dead. Sword, you're dead. At the very least, severely wounded. You eat the wrong sausage, you're dead. But billiard balls, I know they're really hard. I could probably, since I used to play baseball, I could probably do well with a billiard duel, I would think. But I wouldn't imagine somebody would be killed from that. But I guess not. I've been corrected in my thoughts here. So those are all wild stories, man. That's the most interesting part of this video so far.
They use the cue. That would have been.
Yeah. So of all the weapons we've described, probably the safest is the sword, because in dueling, all you have to do is get the draw first blood, as the phrase is. So you literally have to pink someone, just give them a little scratch, and it's called off by the seconds. Well, you got him. So,
really?
What was the most dangerous military stratagem ever devised?
Vehicle reversing.
Was it Hannibal's first crack at the Alps with chihuahuas?
The purpose of this one was to terrify the enemy. Imagine you're in the front line of an army and you're massing against the front line of another army, and the front line of the opposing army does something so extraordinary that you think, oh my God, we're never going to beat them.
Is it from a Carry On film? Is it when they lifted their kilts?
I have to watch those.
And they didn't wear pants. It was amazing.
Carry On Braveheart. No, it's neither of those.
They flagellate themselves. They insert something within them.
They chop their own heads off.
They chop their own heads off.
The front line of the army chops their heads off. How you do that? Grab your hair and just slice with a very sharp sword.
Who was that then? The Scots Guards?
This was in 496 BC.
It would be the Swiss army, because they'd have something on one of those little knives.
No,
496 BC. That's fuck. All right.
Sword.
Who was that then? The Scots Guards?
This was in 496 BC.
It would be the Swiss army, because they'd have something on one of those little knives.
No,
Self-decapitation.
496 BC. Who would be crazy? Which army would be crazy enough to do that in 496 BC? I'm immediately thinking of, well, the main combatants at those times were the Greeks and the Persians. Although I don't think they squared off head to head yet. I think they still had 10 or 15 years more to go to get there. But of course, there's all sorts of, but most of the known world was conquered by Persia at that time. So maybe one of the horse tribes of the steppes. I don't know, man.
It's a country you know well, and you're wearing its flag at the moment.
This is the flag of Vietnam.
Well, that's right. We're talking 496 BC, the army of King Gujian of
Of course. So Eastern history, I'm ashamed to say I'm not too familiar with. Okay.
And he had convicted criminals in the front line and told them they had to cut their own heads off. You may say, well, why would they do that?
What's the worst that could happen?
The worst that could happen is if they didn't, then all their families and all their children would be massacred as well.
It.
Dude, Jimmy just basically said, "Fuck them." I'm not doing it. Oh wow.
They didn't seem to worry. They knew they were going to die anyway. They were condemned to death. What do we know about decapitation? Does it kill you straight away?
I know if you cut a duck's legs off, it can still swim.
It can float, but it can't swim.
Floating
I'll leave a little bit of stumpage.
No.
Oh my God.
It would have to catch the currents. It would evolve into a whole different animal. It would probably get a wing up as a sail or something like that.
It's actually a very funny image.
Didn't they discover, like, for example, at the French Revolution with the guillotine, that, like, heads could kind of, like, chat a
Carry
bit
on
after,
chatting.
So,
Well, no, you're right. There was a story during the terror of the French Revolution that two members of the National Assembly were guillotined and their heads put in the same bag straight away, and one bit the other so hard they couldn't be separated. What, just the heads?
That's holding a grudge, isn't it? For all intents and purposes, you're dead. Let it go. Yeah, you didn't get on. Whatever.
Now, what's the most thankless job in history?
It was being a mum, surely.
Yeah, don't try and get the mum vote.
We have to say thank you to Mum in our house. We won't get any biscuits.
What's the worst job you ever had, Alan?
I put the raisins into fruit and fibre.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did somebody else do the apple bits? You were only in charge of the raisins.
Yeah. They came in a big box. I didn't put them in individually. Wish I'd gone to school.
Anybody else? Terrible job?
I was once working at a record company and someone had a record out with a lyric in it that mentioned Mr. Potato Head. And so I was asked, as a promotional device, to carve faces into 100 potatoes.
The silence.
Okay. Most thankless job in history comes from ancient China. So we're going to go back to 400 to 100 BC. And there were people called Yusha. And they were on a constant quest to rescue anybody in trouble and to help the poor. But they hated being thanked because they were too modest. In fact, it was part of their fundamental beliefs that you should never receive praise. So they are almost the equivalent of the knight-errants, which is what Don Quixote was.
But were they really modest, or were they like, no, please don't, please don't, please don't,
No,
please, no.
No, they had codes of chivalry. So there was one called Chuchia, and he saved hundreds of people's lives, but whenever anybody thanked him, he couldn't bear it. Even when he saved a king's life, he refused to ever see him again just in case he was thanked. It was absolutely part of who they were. There's a period of time in China, it's the 250-year period of warring states, and lots of dynasties were fighting for control. In the end, the dynasty called Qin finally won. That's Q-I-N, and that is where China gets its name from the Qin dynasty. So you can see this area down here on the left. That only lasted for about 15 years. But in these times of untrustworthy government, instability, people turned to these more self-sacrificing Yusha knights to dispense justice instead. Which of these punishments would you rather receive? The penalty of the...
That's actually, that makes me want to I feel kind of ashamed now. I need to learn more about history from the Far East.
Turned to these more self-sacrificing Yusha knights to dispense justice instead. Which of these punishments would you rather receive? The penalty of the sack, an Assyrian parking fine, or be forced to wear a drunkard's cloak?
Are they all worse than they sound?
Well, certainly the parking fine is hideous. So we're talking 700 BC. What do you think the parking fine might have been in 700?
I don't know, but I know after 30 days it doubles if you don't remember to pay.
What are you parking in Assyria?
Chariot or a horse
Hey,
or a
it's Lee
camel
Mack.
or anything you like.
Where is Assyria? Is it Syria?
It's modern northern Iraq, southeastern
Middle
Turkey,
East.
northwestern fringes of Iran. It's an area that's now divided up into other countries. And there was a king called Sennacherib, and he announced a parking restriction on the kingdom's royal road. So you couldn't build anything on it, you couldn't park your chariot out front, and if you did, you were impaled on a stake and planted in your own garden. That was the...
Why do they always go to the most extremes? Oh my god. That's not a fine, that's an execution.
That's for a single yellow or a double yellow.
What if your horse has just broken down?
Put his hazards on.
As long as he blinks, that's all right, the horse, all right.
But they actually had a sign that said, Royal Road, let no man decrease it, in Arcadian cuneiform.
You're saying it like it's more of a punishment in your own garden. Why is that bit so bad?
You might have landscaped.
Yeah.
You might have got your lovely front garden sorted, and then you...
Yeah, you've just put the Lalande in, it's all looking nice.
You'd be like one of those weathercocks, wouldn't you? You'd swing around with the wind. I mean, if you died like that, you could always point in the direction of the wind.
I just imagine if I don't know, say your husband has been impaled on a stake and planted in the garden, you spend all your time going, yeah, but where have you put the car?
That was good.
Yeah, the horse is in a pound somewhere. Also impaled on a stake. I mean, they impaled the horse, not me.
Stashed all the parking tickets in its mouth. Look at them all. Look at how many you've ignored.
Right, well, other punishments, the penalty of the sack or drunkard's cloak. What do you fancy?
Penalty of the sack? It doesn't sound too bad. Maybe a waxing? Oh, that's not too bad.
A couple of clothes pegs.
It's called pianacule. It's an ancient Roman punishment for parricide. Anybody know what parricide is?
Parasite?
Oh, is this the one where they put the convicted in a burlap sack with a monkey, a dog, and a venomous snake, or something like that? Yeah.
Killing someone in the family?
Killing your parents. It involved being whipped, stitched into a leather sack, and thrown into the sea. The Emperor Hadrian adjusted the law by including animals in the sack, along with the victims. You might have a dog or a cockerel, a snake or a monkey. We're not really...
Yo, what? Hadrian is also considered like one of the like more benevolent Roman emperors and like one of the better ones. And he's the one that added the animals. Shame on you, Hadrian. Dude, history is so fucking interesting. It's insane. Anytime someone is like not interested in history, I'm like, why? It's like it's the most interesting subject by far, in my opinion. Anyway.
Really sure whether that was just a deterrent or they really did look for the animals, but we do know it survived into the 18th century in Germany, and monkeys and snakes really hard to source. So in 1715...
Oh, I thought you meant when you're cooking them, sorry.
Oh, I see, yeah. No, what, you'd have a Bernays with or something, yeah. So they were very difficult to source. So in 1715, there was one man who was sacked with a dog, a cockerel, a cat, and a picture of a snake.
It's the thought that counts.
Yeah, mind
Drawn
that
by a
frame.
child.
Yeah. What about the drunkard's cloak?
It's something...
This is why the aliens have not landed and just said hello. Because they see us doing stuff like this and they're like, these people are crazy.
Metallic that is impaled upon you.
No, wooden. In the 1640s, and I think you're going to find this hard to credit, Newcastle upon Tyne had a problem with drunkenness in the streets.
Oh, shut up.
So the initial punishment was to put the offender in the stocks, but if that didn't work, they would take a barrel and they would cut the bottom off it, and they would cut holes like this, one for the head, two for the hands, and they would force the drunk to parade around town.
I think he's more of a medium. He's wearing an extra large there, and it's not hugging in the right places. That's not overly flattering.
It looks as if he's about to tell quite a fun story.
Yeah. All flooded was a part of the chariot.
It's a very unfortunate outfit because drunk people fall over a lot. If he falls over, he's not getting back up very easily.
He could end up miles away. Over a waterfall or something.
Oh, man. Well, give me the drunkard's cloak. Because it sounds like they aren't killed. The other two, the penalty of the sack and the parking fine in Assyria, you're both killed. So give me the drunkard's cloak, definitely. Very interesting stuff there. Now I have the urge to read up on history from the Far East. I've actually, like, the times where I've had history teachers who have mentioned the Far East have a couple of them have stressed that it's much bloodier than Western history. Just insane stuff in there. But yeah, all of history is so interesting, and I love that on QI here. It's just it makes it fun. The banter between the panelists and a lot of these people I recognize now because of I've been doing this channel for like almost 3 years now. Or I think it's been over 3 years at this point. But just the banter back and forth between them it makes it so much more fun. And but it's also so interesting at the same time because I definitely learned some things here. Of the facts that they threw out there was only a couple of them where I sort of knew to a degree. So good video, man. Very good video. Thank you, Chug, for sending that in. That was actually really fun to do. And wow, it's 41 minutes and 30 seconds into it, and it doesn't feel like it at all. So that's when you know you're watching a good video, when you don't even realize what the time is really. Good stuff. And of course, here's an interesting question to ask you guys. Who do you think is the better host, Stephen Fry or the lady? I'm ashamed to say I don't know who the lady's name is, but she seems fun as well. But who do you prefer as the host, Stephen Fry or the lovely lady that's in some of these clips? Which I'm assuming that she's the more recent host because the people on the panels look a bit older when she's in these video clips. But anyway, just wondering, get a little feedback from that. But anyway, thank you, Chug, for sending that in. That was very fun. Like, subscribe, do whatever you guys want. And I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.